Welcome, sports fans. Welcome back to this or that Sports TV, the place you guys come to get the best, most interesting, and everything sports topics, discussions, and debates on the internet. But before I get into today's video, don't forget to like this one, leave a comment, and subscribe to this or that Sports TV. But do one more thing for me, and that's to share the video to at least 10 people. Get us 6 subscribers because if each and every one of you guys can manage to do that, do you know how many subscribers that would get us by the end of the day? Yes, people. I am Rush and I'm here to have another discussion or give you guys something to think about again. This was something that I was thinking about the other day, and I thought, what better thing to do than to bring it to the channel and just try have a reasoning with the people. This topic would probably be better for a live, so that we can get in the feedback and see what they think, and we can scrutinize the positions, player by player. But we have to make do with what we have. So this is how it is, and today I'm going to talk about the last two World Cup qualifying squads and which squad was better, how much was one squad better than the other, and then we can put that into some perspective. So I'm going to compare the 2022 World Cup qualifying campaign and the squad that played that campaign versus the campaign that we're in right now, the 2026 World Cup qualifying campaign, and the squad that is taking on that challenge, and maybe a few players that I think are going to play a bigger part in the campaign, especially for the last leg of it. So everybody know that in the 2022 World Cup qualifying campaign, Jamaica bounced. Well, we didn't bounce, but we finished fifth in the final stages of the World Cup qualifying campaign. The last round, which I think was round 3, we had 8 teams in the group. We played against each team home and away, and the top 4 teams that finished made it to the World Cup, right? Jamaica finished 6th, sorry, not 5th. I think we finished 6th out of the 8 teams in round 3 of the World Club qualifying campaign for CONCACAF. And so we bounced, Tapa get fired in the middle of that campaign. Paul Hall took over. A lot of the international players, a lot of the overseas players that we got into the squad right now actually came into the Jamaican squad during that World Cup qualifying campaign. You see me, so we talk about some of the Mikel Antonis and some players like that. And we even saw some players coming just for that World Cup qualifying campaign, and we didn't see them after that. So that is not what I'm talking about today. I'm just giving some background and building the context. You see me? So we understand what happened there. In 2025 right now, we're in the middle, smack in the middle of our World Cup qualifying quest for the 2026 World Cup in America, Mexico, and Canada. Sorry, people. So we have the final stages to go, which is we're going to be in a group with 3 teams: Bermuda, Trinidad and Tobago, and Curacao. And the team that tops that group will make it to the World Cup. I obviously, as I've said many times on the channel so far, I think Jamaica will make it to the World Cup. I think this is a very, very easy path to make it to the World Cup, and this is the easiest path that we've ever had to make it to the World Cup. So I see us doing that. Now, let's get to it. So before we talk about the overall squad that competed in the 2022 World Cup qualifying campaign, I'm going to just look at some games. Right? Look at the squad that played those games, and then try build the squad at the end of it, and then compare it to the squad now. So I picked 3 games that I'm going to talk about. I picked a game that was at the start of the World Cup qualifying campaign in 2021. Yeah, in 2021. And then I picked a game from the middle of the World Cup qualifying campaign in 2021, and then I picked the last game that we played in the World Cup qualifying campaign in 2022. You see me? I think that was like in May, because the World Cup was in the winter. It was the Winter World Cup that was played in November time, right? So let's get right into it. Let's bring up some of the games. Now let's bring up the first game and the squad that competed in that game. And people, this really give me flashbacks, and just preparing these graphics, it was just not fun. I didn't love it. It really annoyed me, and some of the players that I saw in the squad, it was just awful. But anyways, let's get to it. So the first game that we played in the final round of the World Cup qualifying campaign in 2021 was a game versus Mexico. And this was a really, really good game, people. I don't know if you guys remember this game. Let me should I probably put up the score them too, but hey, whatever. We played Mexico. We went with, this was the lineup that we went with. I'm talking about Andre Blake in goal, Kemar Lawrence, Adrian Mariappa, Damian Lowe, and Alvas Powell. People, some of these names. 3 of the 4 defenders that we have right now, they don't play for Jamaica anymore. Just that and that was just a couple years ago. Anyways, midfield was Norman Powell, Anthony Grant, I'm talking about Speedy Williams. I'm talking about Corey Burke, Romari Williams, and Shamar Nicholson. And people, if you remember this game, it was a game where I think the game was tied. And we lost the game. If I'm not mistaken, we lost the game at the dying embers. I remember a mistake was made and we lost the game. But Jamaica really fought hard. We tried our best. I remember Romari Williams really played a good game. Shaman Nicholson played a good game. He scored in the game. This was the game we saw Anthony Grant and we said, yeah man, him can do it. And so we expected Jamaica to build on that performance against Mexico. We lost that game 2-1, again if I'm not mistaken. And we expected Jamaica to build on that. I think after this game was when we played Panama, when a lot of those international players came into the squad and blah blah blah. We lost that game 3-0. But I think this was the game. I think this one was the game against Mexico. But look at the squad, people. Andre Blake, Kemar Lawrence, Mariappa, Damian Lowe, Alvas Powell, Corey Burke, Speedy Williams, Anthony Grant, Norman Campbell, Shaman Nicholson, Romari Williams. And the bench, Junior Flemings, haven't played for Jamaica in a while. Javan East also hasn't played for Jamaica in a while. O'Neal Fisher, Javian Brown. What's going on with Javian Brown right now? Peter Lee Vassell, Dennis Taylor, Dylan Barnes, Richard King, Tariq McGee, Lamar Walker, Ricardo Morris, Blair Turgot. People remember some of these players. And I'm talking about, we're in 2025 now. This was 21, so this was like 3-4 years ago. And some of these players haven't represented Jamaica in over 2 years. 3 years since this campaign. You see me? So this was that squad, people. I know the names probably are thrown off. The names probably are pissing off right now. And I said, them man, I really did play for Jamaica. Yes, this was the first match in the 2022 World Cup qualifying campaign. Anyways, let's get to the next. Game that I picked out. Let's see. Boom. Nope, not yet. When I reach a yet, my boss. This is where we're at. So the next game is a game that we played against America, which we also lost. But anyways, this was a game in the middle of the campaign now, where we tried to blend in some more of the English-born players, some more American-born players, and we tried to play, a more hybrid squad rather than a fully local squad that, well, some would say Tapa liked, or a fully international squad that a lot of people were calling for. So this was the squad that took on that game against America in the World Cup qualifying campaign. Andre Blake, Javian Brown. Javian Brown was a mainstay in this campaign, by the way. Damian Lowe, Liam Moore, Kemar Lawrence, Javon Watson, Speedy Williams again, Lamar Walker, Bobby Reed, Mikel Antonio, Liam Bailey. So we see the front three, Mikel Antonio, Liam Bailey, Bobby Reed. Nobody had any problems with that. A lot of people were calling for Javon Watson to be benched. Wasn't playing well. He looked unfit, had a belly. It was just not pretty from Javon Watson in this whole campaign, but it is what it is, or it was what it was. Speedy Williams, I think, was a good servant for the country. A really good football player, but I just think he wasn't at the level that we needed in terms of that central midfield position. Lamar Walker, people, Lamar Walker. Anyways, the bench from this squad was Greg Lee coming into the squad, Anthony Grant again, Ravel Morrison, Junior Flemings, O'Neal Fisher, Jadine White, Dwayne Miller, Alvas Powell, Adrian Mariappa, Shaman Nicholson, and Corey Burke. So people, some similar names that I mentioned from the last game that we played against Mexico. And so, when I see the squad, when I see the core of the squad that was competing in the 2022 World Qualifying campaign, looking at this right now, this squad was nowhere near good enough. We still had players that I'd say could put in better performances than we did. I think it was down to bad coaching. I think it was down to just the team chemistry being awful at the time. And if you watch back that captain's documentary, you can tell that the team was just not in a great position. But this team got let down by the coaches, even though some would say it was probably the best team at the moment. Just looking back at it, the team lacked quality. And it had so many players that were not at their best, so many players that were injured, so many players that really and truly shouldn't be playing for Jamaica. But it is what it is. Let's look at the third game, and this was the last game of the World Cup qualifying campaign, people. This was the last game. Paul Hall was in charge for this game, and so maybe some would have said this is not the exact squad, but it had a lot of the players, and it still represented what we saw. Because remember, Paul Hall was a part of Tapa's setup. Paul Hall was an assistant coach, and so a lot of the same players. So let's talk about it. We had Andre Blake in goal, Adrian Mariappa, Richard King, Jamai Topi, Damian Lowe, Greg Lee, Leon Bailey, Ravel Morrison, Speedy Williams, Daniel Green, and Andre Gray. On the bench, we had Lamar Walker, Tariq Zimenez, Atafari Bygrave, Alex Marshall, Dylan Barnes, Amal Knight, Ricardo Thomas, Ramon Howell, Dwayne Atkinson, Christopher Pearson, standout schoolboy that year. I got his call up. Demar Rose and Nicholas Nelson. People, again, all over the place, a lot of players that I think are just not are were not good enough at the time to be playing for Jamaica. Definitely not good enough to be starting. A lot of these players can't get a call up for the country right now, and they are still very young players. And so, all in all, this campaign was just a disappointment, people. And that's just the truth. The 2022 campaign was a disappointment. And so, obviously, as September come around and October come around and November come around, you're going to see more World Cup qualifying videos, you're going to see more World Cup videos. People are going to be talking about the World Cup. And this is probably the first one where I'm just thinking of some topics spontaneously and just bringing them to the channel, bringing them to YouTube so they can watch. And let me know, what do you guys think about that 2022 World Cup qualifying squad that Jamaica used, trying to make it to the World Cup over there in Qatar? Let me know what you think. By the way, people, that World Cup was won by Lionel Messi and Argentina. What a wonderful final. That's the best football game that I've ever watched. But France versus Argentina game, I've always said it. But anyways, people, let's make a small transition now to comparing the two squads. Because I'm trying to make this a long video again, people. I'm trying to make it very short and digestible. Alright? So, let's see if we can bring up the two squads side by side and compare them. 2022 World Cup qualifying squad versus the squad that we have now, which is the 2026. I would assume what will be the 2026 World Cup qualifying squad and the players that will be contesting that World Cup qualifying squad. And people, some of these players that I have here, a lot of these players, even from the 2022 squad, they were fringe players. They played a small part of a World Cup qualifying campaign, but they still, were in the squad. They still got some games, and maybe I left out a few players that really never come in for any time. They probably come in for one game and sit up on the bench and never play. So I didn't find it useful to mention those players. But let's see. And on the 2022 side, which is the left side, I think if you're watching the side closest to me right now, I don't know if this is flipped on the YouTube, but anyways, what was I about to say again? Yeah, this is more than 26 players. Again, it was a long campaign, longer than what we're seeing right now for the final round. Again, that final round in 2022 had 8 teams in the final round in a group, and you play each team home and away. Now we have 4 teams in the group, and we play each team home and away. So it's significantly less games, less players, less windows, all of that. So anyways, let's get right into it. So for the 2022 squad, the coaches were not one coach. The coaches were Theodore Tapper Whitmore and Paul Hall. Those were the two coaches that took over that campaign, right? And so the goalkeepers for that campaign, that played majority of the games. They really only one goalkeeper, but the second and third string, it was Andre Blake, Dylan Barnes, and Jadine White. People remember that trio there? Yes, it was Andre Blake, Dylan Barnes, Jadine White, and Amal Knight played a big part in that campaign also. Dwayne Miller played a big part in that campaign also. But I think the mainstays in terms of the 3 goalkeepers that we always saw in the squad were these 3, Blake, Barnes, and White. What's going on with Dylan Barnes, by the way? I know he lost his club. I don't know where he is at the moment. But yeah, we need to do probably a keeping up with him or a player radar with him. Next is the defender section. We had Adrian Mariapa, Damian Lowe, Javian Brown, Kemar Lawrence, Ethan Pinnock, who came in the middle of the campaign, or the earlier part of the campaign, Greg Lee, Richard King, Liam Moore, and then a few players that I mentioned that really didn't play a big part, but they were in the team. Fisher, Powell, and Topi. Talking about O'Neal Fisher, Alvas Powell, and Jamai Topi. The midfielders section, we're talking about Devon Williams, that's Speedy Williams, Javon Watson, Ravel Morrison, Bobby Decker, Dover, Reed, Lamar Walker, Anthony Grant. People remember Anthony Grant? God damn. Daniel Johnson, and they were talking about Tyree McGee, Peter Lee Vaslan, Alex Marshall, who were players that were in and out of the squad, players that some game didn't see them for some of the windows. Again, this final round of World Cup qualifiers really took place over more than 12 months, and so a lot of players really featured in this World Cup qualifying campaign. In terms of the forwards now, we're talking about Mikel Antonio, Leon Bailey, Shaman Nicholson, Andre Gray, Corey Burke, Junior Flemings. People, what's happening with Junior Flemings? Daniel Green, Javan East, Norman Campbell, Atafari Bygrave. And I think I leave off somebody off of this, man. I leave off Kemar Roof off of this. Alright? Yeah, I leave off Kemar Roof off of this, who came in that World Cup qualifying campaign. Also, a lot of chatter around him being the savior for the squad. But hey, that was the 2022 squad. Not a bad squad. Not an awful squad. I remember it started with a lot of local players. More local players that I'd want into the squad. And just people complain about Tapa's selection. But then over the World Cup qualifying campaign, the selection got better, but the play on the field did not necessarily get better. Now the 2026 squad, which is the squad that I assume will be taking on the 3 windows that are about to come up in September, October, and November. These are the players that I think will play a major part in this campaign, right? And maybe I leave off a few players will be injured. But I don't know the future, people. I don't know what will happen, but I use the recently concluded Gold Cup. I use the World Cup qualifying campaign so far to make this squad. So the goalkeepers are talking about Andre Blake, Jamali Waite, and Shaquan Davis. Those are the 3 goalkeepers that seem to always get the call. Those are the goalkeepers that will continue to play for Jamaica, continue to be the first, second, and third string goalkeepers. I'm not calling for even any change or anything. People have to work for them spot. No longer we can just call them and just for call them and sake. Defender section now, we're talking about Ethan Pinnock, Mason Holgate, Damian Lowe, Amari Bell, Richard King, Greg Lee, Dexter Lembikisa, Joel Latibodir, Kyle Ming. Alright, midfielder section, we're talking about Isaac Hayden, Ravel Morrison, Casey Palmer, Cara Anderson, Tariq McGee, Jonathan Russell, Bobby Decker Dover Reed, Sule Makala, and Dwayne Atkinson. People will compare the section for sections and player for player and say who better, who worse, or whatever. But just already, the team is just so much better. So much better. Even just on name, on paper, the team is so much better. Forwards, we're talking about Mikel Antonio, Liam Bailey, Ronaldo Cephas, Roman Borrell, Romario Williams, Bobby De Cordova. Why may I have Bobby De Cordova in a 2 spot? People, we need a producer. We need a producer. We need a graphic designer. We need somebody to look over them things. Or I need to be the one looking over it. Anyways, Romario Williams, Kaim Dixon, Warner Brown, Shaman Nicholson, and to that I am expecting that we're going to add Mason Greenwood. We may add Dujan Richards. You see me? Yeah, me and talk about exciting squad. But anyways, let's compare it now. Player for player, let's do it. So, the 3 goalkeepers, Andre Blake, Dylan Barnes, Jaden White. Andre Blake, Jamali Waite, Shaquan Davis. I think the 2026 squad have a better goalkeeping cohort. Andre Blake obviously is the number 1, so there's no change right there. Not even going to say it's better. I said cancel out each other. Dylan Barnes, Jamali Waite. Dylan Barnes at the time and Jamali Waite right now may be the same level of goalkeeper. Dylan Barnes was playing in the championship for QPR. Jamali Waite is playing in the USP. No, he's playing in the USL. I think for the locomotives or whatever. And top goalkeeper, by the way. Valiant effort anytime he plays for Jamaica. Really good servant for the country. Big up Jamali Waite. I like to see him in goal. Shaquan Davis is the local player, the best goalkeeper in the country. J.D. White, some may say, was the best goalkeeper in the country at the time. So the goalkeeper, I'm not going to say 2026 better. This actually cancel out each other. Pound for pound, player for player. This section cancel out each other. These players cancel out each other, right? Next, let's look at the defenders. Ethan Pinnock. Let's look at the 2. We're going to go to the starting players and then we can go to the bench players. So, at that time, we were talking about Adrian Mariap and Damian Lowe started majority of the games. If not Adrian Mariap and Damian Lowe, we saw Liam Moore and Damian Lowe. And then Ethan Pinnock came in and then we saw some of Ethan Pinnock. But Adrian Mariap and Damian Lowe or Liam Moore, Damian Lowe versus Ethan Pinnock and Damian Lowe now. 2026 is so much better. Ethan Pinnock is better than Adrian Mariap and Damian Lowe, Liam Moore and all of them. Ethan Pinnock is better. And then even if we don't have Damian Lowe there, we're going to have Mason Holgate there, who is also better than the players that I mentioned a while ago. Left back and right back now we are talking about left back we are talking about Amari Bell and Greg Lee. In the 2022 squad, we had Greg Lee came in that campaign, but we also had Kemar Lawrence in that campaign. I'd say now is better. Amari Bell and Greg Lee is better than um Kemar Lawrence and a Greg Lee. And even though Amari Bell played some part of that campaign, Kemar Lawrence and Greg Lee, them did really a buckle out feet. Kemar Lawrence especially started the campaign. And so I'm going to say Amari Bell better than Kemar Lawrence at the time. Kemar Lawrence went to Belgium there and his career never really hit the heights after that. He was supposed, really and truly, so Kemar Lawrence and Alvas Paul really were supposed to be the veterans of the squad at this time, and they were not. They were really players looking on their last legs, players looking at the back end of their careers, not even the back end of their prime, the back end of their careers. They were just not playing good football. It was just not good from those players. But anyways, I think at the left back position we're better right now. At the right back position, we had Javian Brown, we had O'Neal Fisher. Who else did we have? Adrian Mariappa would have slotted in sometime over there. And in this squad right now in 2026, on the right side, we have a Dexter Lembikisa. You have a Joel Latibodier who's slotting over there sometime. And we may see O'Neal Fisher coming from time to time. But me I gotta say majority we are gonna see Dexter Lembikisa and Joel Latibodier. I mean I say sometimes the man will come with one right back. Brawling. The man now pick no Tavon Gray, the man now pick Javian Brown. So right now, maybe, but even not gonna say maybe, bro, cause it was Javian Brown at the time starting versus Dexter Lembikisa starting right now. Dexter Lembikisa is better than Javian Brown. Javian Brown player I really like. I think should be in the squad. He's better than Tavon Gray in my eyes. He offers more to the squad than Tavon Gray. So I want to see Javian Brown as a backup right back for us if there's a space there. If not, and Latibodier is not going to start, Latibodier can be the right back or the whatever, right? But right now, that one may be a tie. Just because we don't have enough depth at the position right now in 2025 for the 26 campaign. Let's talk about the midfielders now. Devon Williams and Javon Watson were the two, you got to say the double pivot at the time. They were the two central midfielders. And now we're talking about Isaac Hayden and let's say Casey Palmer. Right? Or Jonathan Russell, not Casey Palmer. Devon Williams, Javon Watson versus Isaac Hayden and Jonathan Russell. Isaac Hayden and Jonathan Russell win every day of the week. And so the just essential part of the midfield got better already. You see me? I'm not say this is the answer because I don't think we've seen the answer yet. But we still got an upgrade. And so far, every single position we mentioned is either there's a tie or there's an upgrade. In the goalkeeper section, tie. Defenders, 2026 squad I lead them by a mile and a yard and an inch and go down to the centimeter. 2026 I lead them. Midfielders right now, Devon Williams versus Javon Watson, Isaac Hayden versus Jonathan Russell. Isaac Hayden and Jonathan Russell winning that right there. The attacking midfield, we maybe see a Bobby Reed, we maybe see a Casey Palmer, we maybe see a Kara Anderson in the midfield with a 3. At the time, who was playing? Lamar Walker got a lot of game in that campaign. Peter Lee Vassar got a lot of game in that campaign. Daniel Johnson got a lot of game in that campaign. And so I think in terms of the second tier of players in the squad, I think that's kind of evening itself out. If we talk about the Anthony Grant, the Daniel Johnson, the Lamar Walker, the Peter Lee Vassar, if I compare them to a Tyreek McGee, a Kara Anderson, a Casey Palmer, that may even itself out. Even though I like a Casey Palmer and a Kara Anderson over a Daniel Johnson and a Lamar Walker, I still think in terms of level of players, they are not far ahead of the 2022 players. But overall as a midfield, I think we got slightly better. I don't think we blew the last midfield out of the park, but slightly better. I think what really would give this 2026 team the edge in the midfield is like Isaac Hayden and Jonathan Russell. They look good whenever they play together, and Isaac Hayden is just so much better. He's the best midfielder if we combine all of these players. He's the best midfielder in the team in 2022 or in 2026. What a team we would have if Isaac Hayden just came in 2022 to play for Jamaica, man. But that's how it go, people. Anyways, let's get to the forward. Cause again, I don't want to make the video long. We had Mikel Antonio, Liam Bailey. No. Yeah. I do the 22 squad already. So we have Mikel Antonio, Liam Bailey, Ronald Cephas, Roman Burrell, Romario Williams, Bobby the Cordova Reed, Kaim Dixon, Warner Brown, Shaman Nicholson. And as I say, maybe we get a Mason Green. People may not even compare them players up and play. May not even compare this position player for player. 2026 is so much better. You see me, Mikel Antonio versus Mikel Antonio was there already. Liam Billy versus Liam Billy is there already. Shamanika versus Shamanika is there already. But now we're getting to the crux and the nitty gritty of it now. If we talk about a Warner Brown versus a Andre Gray, Warner Brown. Even if we compare Corey Burke, me I gotta say Warner Brown right now. You see me? Romario Williams. Who would I compare Romario Williams to now? Would I compare Romario Williams to let's say a Javan East? Yeah, I figure Romario Williams the edge right there, so. You see me? You might compare oh, me have somebody in that squad there. Me have Demari Gray in that squad. Why people? Me really need a graphic designer people. Demari Gray compared to a Junior Flemings or compared to a Daniel Green or Norman Campbell. There's no competition. If you compare Mason Greenwood to said players that I mentioned a while ago, no competition. If you compare a Mason Greenwood right now to a Mikel Antonio at the centre forward position, no competition. Kaim Dixon would have been a little protege. Come up now. But even Kaim Dixon, if you compare him to Atafire by Grave, or you compare him to a Norman Campbell, compare him to a maybe not a Javan East, because Javan East still always a dream thing over there in Central America or in Mexico. You see me? But even if you compare Kaim Dixon to a lot of these players, better. Borrell, I do him thing. We don't see much of him yet. But people, this 2026 overall now, let's wind it down. This 2026 squad, I think, is much better than the 2022 squad that competed to make it to the World Cup. Now, what does this say about the task that we have at hand? What does this say about the coach if he doesn't make it to the World Cup? What does this say about the coach if he doesn't make it to the World Cup? Because people, if we have a better squad, if the route to make it to the World Cup is much easier, if we don't make it to the World Cup, what does that say about the coach? And people are getting them. I go repeat my sentiments. I think Jamaica will make it to the World Cup. I think Jamaica will make it to the World Cup comfortably. But that is not going to be because Jamaica is so much better, or Jamaica is going to play so much better than the opposition, or Jamaica is this brilliant team that must make it to the World Cup regardless of who is in front of them. No, that's not why I think Jamaica will make it to the World Cup. I think Jamaica will make it to the World Cup solely because we got the easiest possible group that we could have gotten. I think because we don't have a team that even ranked nowhere close to us, don't have the level of quality nowhere close to us. And so I think even on our bad days, we are still going to be able to get a 1-0 or a 2-1 or a 2-0 win over some of these teams. If we talk about a Curacao and a Bermuda people, come on. If we talk about Trinidad and Tobago, even on our worst day, we're going to beat those teams. And that is why I think Jamaica is going to make it to the World Cup. No, I hope that we make it to the World Cup on some good performances. I hope that we make it to the World Cup coming out and playing better football. I hope Steve McLaren gets it together. I hope some of these players get it together. I hope that we get a Mason Greenwood that is going to take the team to the next level, or going to add something else to the team and make we look promising and make look really good, like we can go to the World Cup and do so. But I think even if we don't get all of that and Jamaica plays some awful football, I still think we'll make it to the World Cup. So that is the opinion that I have. But if we don't, having so much of a better squad, getting such an easier road to the 26th World Cup in America, Canada and Mexico, if Jamaica is not there, just pack up the whole program. And I mean that people, if you like the video, don't forget to like the video, leave a comment and subscribe to this or that Sports TV. But one more thing for me, that's to share the video to at least 10 people, get to 6 subscribers. Because if each and every one of you guys can manage to do that, do you know how many subscribers that would get us by the end of that day? But for now, people, this was this or that Sports TV. I gone.